5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the WDMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Well, as you can see, I start right in. That gives me a few more minutes at the front, but my LinkedIn viewers may not join me live, which is if you really want to join live, what you want to do, like here comes my friend from Arizona. What you want to do is you want to subscribe on Periscope, because that gives you a little whistle. And I do that every day with Scott Adams, and sometimes it goes off in church, but mostly not. I keep it on because, I have one other guy or two that I follow on Periscope, and I just want to know when they're up and going, so I remember to watch. And then you can comment, and I'm watching the comments. Say something, Mr. Arizona. See if he says anything. See if he's paying attention, or if he just has his phone looking at it for nothing. Anyway, let's go on and talk about the news. It was I was talking with David Rosendahl, and we're going to post that probably tomorrow. I usually keep those for emergencies, but it was a great interview, and I think Dave has more of a pulse on what's going on in the marketing industry than most. And he mentioned TikTok in our conversation. It may be offline, but I think he did. And so TikTok is something that, if you ask your average old guy, probably never heard of it. But I am not average, and I do know what it is. It's sort of a replacement of Vine. As far as I know, the video length is still significantly limited, but little kids like it a lot because it kind of goes bam, 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 very fast. And so TikTok is getting millions, tens of millions of new users around the world a month. And David was mentioning how they're getting some great results. I don't know what, he didn't mention what products, what offers, but it's another shiny object. I'm not saying he shouldn't do it. Probably should learn more about it. They've been having some trouble lately because it is so popular with little kids, under 13 a lot. And, it's not a great spending market, but it's a great whining to parents market. And they will someday. So you can get in early. But at the same time, they've come under fire from the FTC, and this is a big challenge because on one hand, companies like YouTube are held responsible for bad videos up there, but they let people join free, and they have to kind of sort it out on the fly. Very difficult. I think there's a whole user community that wants to circumvent the stuff. And so they're held responsible on one end, and on the other end, they're not supposed to really use their data. So they have to use their data for some things and not use the data for other things, and that's a tricky puzzle. Just saying. And curating is a difficult puzzle, especially with videos, and it's even more so, I think, with short videos. So give it a look, and welcome, Jason, and see what you think. Now, this is an article that I've been meaning to get to by Scott Brinker. And Scott, tell customer think that when you minimize an article in Firefox, it changes the author every time. And it seems to give David Brock a lot of play, which is kind of funny. And but he didn't write this, even though it says it right there in black and white. I learned to go fix it. So, Scott, thank you for the article. And I've used a couple of Scott's articles in the past. So he went to a session from Amazon explaining how they innovate. When you've probably heard the story, Jeff Bezos got in his car, left his Wall Street job, and went off to Seattle, and on the way wrote the business plan, essentially, for Amazon. And what they did was take the little computer that bookstores used to have where they would order a book that they didn't have in stock and you'd come back in another week. And they convinced the bookstore association that they were a bookstore, and they gave that terminal across the internet to everybody else, to all consumers. And those consumers were then able to order the book and deliver it to themselves rather than have to go back to the store. And it had an impact on bookstores, but it also meant there were a lot more books being read, and still are. So in the grand scheme of things, probably a good thing. But, I didn't think of Amazon as an innovator. That one wasn't that innovative. The way they did their people who bought have also bought was pretty much a patch job. Their warehouses were, I think, a nightmare at the beginning. But I liked the way they gave you follow-ups saying it's on its way. We have your order, we have your payment, we've picked it, we're going to ship it, and excuse me. Oh man, too much pepper this morning. So anyway, they did some things in the process that they could do, and kept on innovating on the warehouse and delivery and one click. Wasn't really that new, but they just kept going. And so I've been puzzled by that all the way along. And so they did this vice president of Internet of Things at Amazon Web Services, and he laid out some of their principles of the way architecture organization is multiplied by mechanisms and culture. And they talk about customer focus. I think that's why their focus is usually on shipping and delivery. Because for me, you can do all of the fancy things with chat bots or real people chat or customer service or customer support. But if you don't get it there when I order it, nah, I'm not so high on it. It's things like get me what I ordered. That's a big deal. And so Amazon is relentless on these things, they say. But I think that some of these principles are applicable any other place. And that's what I wanted to talk about a little bit today. Jeff Bezos, in his software development, had an API mandate, which said basically your pieces of code have to be interoperable. They can't do function calls to some library no one else has. They have to work across the company. So if you come up with some cool way to, I don't know what, search items or embed videos on the web or something like that, you have to make that available. And anyone who doesn't do this will be fired. Okay? That is leadership. And that interoperability is, that when we used to build databases, we made a few big progress steps. One was that we stopped doing JAD sessions and preliminary data analysis. We learned that we could tell more about data by throwing it into the system and modeling it than we could with preliminary analysis, because half the time the answers we got from the people, marketing people don't have access to the data in normal companies, and the IT people don't really care what the data is as long as the stuff processes and you ship the order. So you never got good answers, and so we were getting better at just throwing it into a structure. But our databases were custom coded. We would custom code the variables for every client, and that got to be overwhelmingly cumbersome. And so we went to something like this, where everybody had to write. You can build sort of libraries in Impromptu or in Interbase. We used both, and they were able to be used on every other client after that. And so we started building a library of data scoring and variable creation methods. Okay, this was interesting. Every team moves in microservices. How big should a team be? 2 large pizzas. That's it. So if you have big eaters, maybe 4 guys. But if you have average people, it's maybe 8 people. And if you have, light eaters or vegans, you can maybe get 10, 12. But anyway, that aside, I think that's great. Another point, great point, 2 is better than 0. Okay? It's better to have 2 teams working on something fast, even if they duplicate their efforts, because we might get something really good out of it, out of one. And if you limit the possibilities and have to have some gatekeeper refereeing every project, then you will not get anybody working on it. So it's better to duplicate effort than it is to have no effort at all or lose days or weeks negotiating common solutions. That's why a data mart is so much more effective for database development than working on it internally. If we feel like creating a variable like the werewolf variable, we just do it. Most of the time, it doesn't amount to anything. Most variables don't. Hate to tell you, that's why most AI doesn't. But in the grand scheme of things, sometimes you find one. It's better not to tell a client all the crazy stuff you came up with, and it's better not to have their IT people spinning their wheels trying to think up stuff faster than we do. Anyway, so those couple things are great. Small teams take pride in ownership. Small teams make decisions faster. This is just a great, rich article. You really want to check out Scott's LinkedIn page. Look him up on LinkedIn. The 6-page on longer, they have one-way doors and two-way doors. Two-way doors you can back out of. One-way doors you can't. So on a one-way door, they have a 6-page memo. You have to write a 6-page memo for what you want to do, and then everybody reads it in the room, right there on the spot. And that forces the champion to write it down well, but not infinitely. And then everyone reads it together and thinks about it before they talk. Boy, that could help a lot of stuff. On big errors, what happened? What was the impact? What was the root cause? What data do you have to support this? What are the critical implications, especially security? What lessons did you learn? That's one I'm going to retroactively implement today because, every now and then mistakes happen. We're going to talk about how to correct it. That sounds like a great formula for any company. I'm John. Have a great day. Like and share. Share. People don't get this. People don't get. When you hit like on LinkedIn, it does almost nothing. When you hit share, your connections then see the article, much more likely. So if you like something, yeah, sure, hit like. You can if you want. It doesn't do anything. But share actually multiplies the thing you like. So if you're going to like it, you might as well share it, though nobody does. Your friends will think you're